On this account, his glorying is glorying in the Lord, not in himself. Whether in the body or out of the body, Paul simply did not know what state he was in. Such a one caught up into the third heaven. Since the Apostle Paul here quite obviously resorted to the third person when narrating these events, the critics who deny the authorship of the book of Jonah on the ground that it was written in the third person are refuting. The word caught up are the same that Luke used in of Philip in Acts 8:39. And when they came up out of the water, Acts 8:39, and when they came up out of the water, the Spirit of the Lord carried Philip away. And the eunuch saw him no more, and went on his way rejoicing. And that Paul used of the resurrection, 1 Thessalonians 4:17.
2 Corinthians 12.
Then we who are alive, who are left, will be caught up together with them in the cloud to meet the Lord in the air.
12.
And so we will always be with the Lord. 14 years ago, this was in about 41, 42 AD, some years after his escape from Damascus. There's nothing known of any vision Paul had at that time except what is related here, although he had numerous visions. The third heaven, this is mentioned only here in the New Testament, and there's no certainty about what is meant. David Lipston outlined the three heavens as understood by the Jews. One, the air or atmosphere where the clouds gather, Genesis 2:1. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. Two, the firmament containing the sun, moon, and stars, Matthew 24:29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from heaven. 3, God's dwelling place, Matthew 5:16. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes the sun rise and the evil and on the good days, and sends rain on the just and the unjust. There are no geographical connotations whatever in these words. For the third heaven, where God dwells, is not a thing of space or physical location at all. It is a state of being beyond, above, higher, even than the second heaven. The eternal spirit is everywhere. And as Paul said, in him we live and move and have our beings. Let's go to Acts 17, verse 26. Acts 17, verse 26. And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined allotted periods and the boundaries of their dwelling places. Finite man cannot understand infinity. The great value of the astounding revelation of Paul, the apostle, does not lie in what is explained. As a matter of fact, he did not explain anything, but its value lies in the revelation that no explanation of such things is possible. There's never been anything written that carries any greater internal evidence of being true than what Paul wrote here. The visions and revelations referred to occurred more than 14 years previously. And it may be assumed that Paul would never have mentioned them at all, except for their connection with the thorn in the flesh. Furthermore, when he finally recorded them, he did so with much tantalizing brevity, requiring only 10 words in Greek, visions of the third heaven and of paradise. Plainly, Paul did not intend to convey any information at all beyond the fact that he had experienced such marvelous events. He explained his brevity, 2 Corinthians 12, verse 4, by declaring it to be, 1, an outright impossibility to elaborate, 2, contrary to God's will, even if he could have done so. Finite, limited, mortal, and sinful people simply do not possess the intellectual tools to comprehend either the God and Father of mankind, or the nature of his dwelling place. Of God, men may know only what is revealed, and even with regard to that, only a fool could believe that man fully understands all of it in any complete sense. Therefore, as far as the third heaven is concerned, we do not know anything beyond the truth that the apostle was caught up into it. Verse 3, and I know such a man, whether in the body or apart from the body, I know not. God knows how that he was caught up into paradise and heard unspeakable words, which is not lawful for a man to utter. The repetition of the same thought in 2 Corinthians 12, 2 and 3, whether in the body, is difficult to interpret. Opinions is divided as to whether the apostle is merely repeating what he had just said, or is describing a second event. It could be that Paul described two experiences taking place on one occasion. The time of 14 years ago thus applies to both. Paul's repetition here is for the purpose of applying his ignorance of what state he was in both is fulfilled by the two here given, and the word and the beginning of the sentence at least seems to indicate that he was narrating something additional. Paradise. There is another important consideration which supports the understanding of two events rather than merely one, and that is Paul's use of the word paradise. There is no authority whatever for making this mean the same thing as the third heaven, despite the fact of endless arguments that they are the same. Paradise, this word in the New Testament is found only here and in Luke 23:43. Let's turn to Luke 23, verse 43. And he said to him, truly, I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. Talking about Christ on the cross. And also Revelations 2, verse 7. Revelations 2, verse 7. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one who conquers, I will grant to eat of the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God. If it is true, as has been assumed, that the third heaven is the place of God's dwelling, Jesus had not yet ascended to it on the day he rose from the dead. For he said to Mary Magdalene, touch me not, for I have not yet ascended to my Father. Yet the Lord had promised the thief on the cross, today shalt thou be with me in paradise. In Luke 23, verse 43, Jesus had been with the thief in paradise already, but he had not yet ascended to the third heaven. There's two theories out there about what happens to us when we die. One theory is we die, we go to paradise, and we stay in paradise until the second coming. And then we go with Jesus to meet God in the heaven or the third heaven. There's another theory out there that says when you die, you go into a state of sleep. Just like you go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, you go to sleep, you don't remember anything until 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever time you get up. There's a lot said, written in the Bible about both of these. We know that Jesus said to the thief, "Today you will be with me in paradise." That was Jesus talking, so it's got to be right. Also, the rich man and Lazarus. You know, when Lazarus died, he was in Abraham's bosom. Was Abraham's bosom paradise? Probably so. Was this literal or not? You know, I don't know. And there's a lot about what we'll study in the next week or two that I'm going to say up front. I've studied, I still don't know the answer to them, but you be your own judge on that. Unspeakable, unlawful. And these words are Paul's reason for not satisfying human curiosity about things he's mentioned. Paul here revealed nothing, either of what he saw or what he heard. The New Testament deliberately veils the next life, though it makes plain what is needful for our salvation. Verse 5, on behalf of such a one will I glory, but on my own behalf I will not glory, save in my weakness. Such a one, such a man, such a one, each is the equivalent of a man in Christ and should be understood as Paul's repeated affirmation of the truth of his experiences being, in a sense, not his own, but Christ. It was in unity with Christ that the events occurred. In that exalted sense, therefore, Paul could not glory in his own behalf. All spiritual blessings in the heavenly places is in Christ. Verse 6, for if I should desire to glory, I shall not be foolish, for I shall speak the truth, but I forbear, lest any man should account of me above that which is seen me to be, or hear from me. And I'm trying to finish these 10 verses, so I'm not going to go into them very much here, just to read through them. Thorn in the flesh, like the vision themselves, the thorn in the flesh is a little more than a hint revealed in terms of tantalizing brevity and described by difficult to understand allusions which have puzzled people for centuries. The thorn has been thought of different ways. Some think it was his eyesight, some think it was his health. I seem to think that it was the people that were out to get him. These people that was hounding him from day to day and trying to take him out. Verse 8, concerning this thing, I besought the Lord twice. Paul tried to rid himself of this thorn in the flesh, whether it was something in his body or whether it was things around him. He wanted God to take them away, but God said, no, this is for your own good. Verse 10, wherefore I take pleasure in weakness, injuries, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. This verse describes Paul's living with the thorn unremoved. And there is not a word of sickness, disease, or nearsightedness, or anything of that kind. It is injuries, persecutions, of which he speaks. And what were these but the multiple efforts of the hardened Israelites against the gospel of Christ? We'll stop there. This is a good stopping point, and we'll pick up again next week. Thank you.